Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is the first day of February in the new year, 2024. Does it seem like January went by really fast? Seems like just yesterday we were saying Happy New Year, and now we're in February. And I just know that it's just one of the funniest things about getting older is that when you get older, everything goes fast. So um, I hope that everybody is moving toward the goals that they've written down of the things that they want to do to improve their lives. I really think that all of us should make a commitment to learn something new every single day, or to try something different to make your life more full. I was with some friends a couple of weeks ago, and this young girl went and last year, and she skydived. And she said, "Do you want to?" I said, "That's not on my bucket list." But it was so interesting because we were in a restaurant at a wine tasting, and as she talked, other people started crowding around. Saying, "I want to do that. I want." I thought, "Boy, you better go ahead on, and try something." What I appreciate about that is that she did it, and her enthusiasm about it made other people want to try it as well. Did not move me. It did not. That is not my calling. I'm not getting up in anybody's plane and jumping out. I'm not doing it. But the point is that I have made some promises to myself, some suggestions to myself of things that I want to do this year that I have not yet done. Excuse me. We can't keep doing the same old things and expect ourselves to bloom and to blossom into what God and who God has made us. So I hope that you're thinking about that. Just make a commitment to do something different. You might do something as little as saying saying that you're going to begin to save money. It's an easy thing to do once you start doing it. You just have to be lose the idea that makes you think that you can't do it. You can. Everybody can save something, and it will help you. So little things that you think are little, or ways that you would never think of thinking, because you think that there are so many things that you cannot do. Don't think that way. Understand that you are capable, you are able, you have agency, and all of us have the capacity to surprise ourselves with life. We just can surprise ourselves. So I'm hoping that you'll do that. The second thing that I wanted to say this morning is that, primaries are coming up. Now, historically, I have not voted in primaries. I hate to say it, but I'm voting in this primary, and I think I'm going to vote in primaries going forward if we still have a democracy after November. But it's very, very important, because the people that you vote for, regardless of who you are, what you are, in terms of Republican or Democrat or Independent, whoever you vote in the primary is who will appear on the ballot in November. So if there's somebody on the ballot, on the primary ballot, that you absolutely know is not out for you, your people, your community, you should go and vote that person or vote against that person in the primary, so that you have some cushion, and a cushion of belief that that person will not be on the ballot that is in November. That means that you need to check your registration, and if you want to vote by mail, you need to get that application in, because everything is different. But instead of sitting around and wringing your hands about what's going on politically, because it is a hot mess, it's a hot mess. Rather than do that, use your agency, do what you can do. Vote in the primary, take somebody with you, help other people get registered to vote, because everybody still is not registered to vote. And when you think about the, the threats that are against our democracy, it should make everybody want to vote a little bit more. You might have a whole bunch of issues with this government, as we all do. Everybody does. Everybody does. Maybe except for the very, very, very wealthy, but most of us have a few things. We have a list of things that we don't like about this government. But at the end of the day, it's better than the alternative. And what people are trying to do, certain people are trying to do, is take away our rights. I was listening to a report yesterday where some politician in some state is trying to make it a felony for pregnant women to travel. They don't want them to travel out of state because they're afraid that they're going to travel out to get abortions. That is not your business. That is not your business. And if we are not careful, because they're not they're not blowing democracy over with a great big old uh, ball, a steel ball. They're chipping away at it gradually, so that one day you'll look up and you don't have the rights that you've always had. We have a whole generation of young people who have never experienced the type of oppression that people are trying to take us back to. They think that life is kind of bucolic, kind of, just really wonderful. But when you don't have your rights, when you don't have the freedom to speak, the freedom to have the kind of religion you want, the freedom to assemble, they want to take a right to assemble. They don't want people to be able to call people racist, and you can be arrested for it. It's awful. It's awful. You have to really look at what's going on. You got to be aware. And so voting in the primary is very, very, very important. So if you weren't planning on voting in the primary, please change your plans. Go to the polls, take somebody with you, tell people how important it is, and encourage us. Let us help each other get through this period of time. And let me also say that I hope that more and more people are reading. I just finished the book Prequel by Rachel Maddow, but I've been reading a whole lot of stuff about the history of fascism or fascist tendencies in this country. And it seems that there are a great number of people who do not like democracy. They do not like democracy. They don't believe in liberty and justice for all, which is why I wrote that book, my book, with liberty and justice for some. They don't believe it. They don't believe that God wanted it, that it is natural, that it is right. And so they have been there. A great number of people, contingency of people in this country have been working for a long time to undo democracy. It is not a new thing what we're experiencing, but it feels very bad to many of us because we didn't live through the other periods of time where people were chipping away at democracy. In Maddow's book, she talks about how the contingency to get rid of democracy, senators, congresspersons, all in the government. It just gives you the creeps to know how deep is the corruption in this country, and in all governments, but in this country, and how deep is the longing for some people to take away your rights and to have full control over you. Now, I don't know how that makes you feel, but that just makes me angry. Nobody has the right to tell. If I were pregnant and I wanted to take a trip, I'm trying to figure out what the parameters of this law are that this guy is suggesting. And it's men who have not ever been pregnant, don't have to worry about it. They can go out and make women pregnant. They don't have to worry about anything that they do. That's a whole other thing. But if I were young and were pregnant and wanted to take a trip and I was at the airport and somebody said, you can't go because you're pregnant, I think I would end up in jail. How dare you? How dare anybody put their big feet in the rights of other people? Just worry about yourself. Worry about how you're going to run your own life and stop trying to destroy other people's lives. I'm telling you that it is really, really important. And so if to vote and to know why you're voting, to know what it is that you want to protect and preserve in this country. They want to make it so that it is illegal to assemble. So they don't want you to protest. What are you talking about? I'm telling you, because many of us we don't read, we don't listen, we don't pay attention. It is time to pay attention and for everybody to get on the battlefield so that we can fight. The only way we have to fight what's going on right now is with the vote. And so I urge you to vote in the primary. Make sure that you're registered for the primary. If you're not registered, register. The primary in Ohio is March 19th. In your own states, find out when the primary is and make sure you are registered and make sure you take people with you or get people to go, because this now is the work for all of us, all of us, all of us, all of us. So okay, so that's my rant for this morning. I'm just kind of, I was just kind of bummed out yesterday when I heard that person wanting to have a law that makes it illegal, a felony. You could go to prison. If this law were to go through, if you were pregnant and you traveled outside your state, they are worried that if you go outside your state, you're going to a state where abortion is legal. And so there, not surprisingly, there are other people trying to make laws so that it is making it impossible for states to form their own laws, have their own laws about abortion. It is just the hottest mess. I am so tired of male supremacy and white male supremacy and wealthy white male supremacy. I'm so tired of it. But it's not just black folks, not just white folks. Many black folks feel the same way. I'm telling you, it is time for us to pick up our spirits and walk, run, do whatever we need to do to protect our rights. I know I'm continuing this rant, but I was just reading about Myrlie Evers, who's 90 years old. Now she'll be 91 this year. And in 2020, she was living in a retirement home, and she was really bothered by the murder of George Floyd. And it was also the period of COVID. So the retirement home was not letting anybody into the retirement home and nobody could go out because they were trying to protect their residents. And so Myrlie Evers figured out a way to sneak out of the retirement home, and with her cane, using her cane, she walked to a polling place that was nearby and she cast her vote. That's what I'm talking about. You got to have that type of passion and that type of awareness of how important you are. Bishop William Barber said if our votes didn't matter, they wouldn't be fighting so hard to take our votes away. Know that, sit on that, chew on that, digest that, and help save this country from people who want to just step on our necks and get away with it. Okay, promise. Really, I'm done with the rant for today. So, welcome to Thursday morning. My name is Reverend Susan Smith. We do Thursday morning a reading from my book, Rest for the Justice Seeking Soul. There are meditations to help those who are on the battlefield working for justice. I write a meditation every single Tuesday, and many of you have contacted me and have wanted to be on the distribution list. And when you do that, when you email me at crazyfaith2019 at gmail.com, I put your name on immediately. Somebody said over Christmas that she tried to purchase books at Amazon. She said they didn't have any, but I contacted the publisher, and the publisher said that Amazon still has them. So I really want you to buy them. I want you to buy the books, but I also want you to get on the distribution list too, so that you can receive something to think about every single week. There's only 90 meditations in the book that has been published. I want to do another book, some more of the meditations, but we got to sell these ones first. I found myself wishing that I was like somebody big, like Otis Moss the Third, or somebody the people who sell those humongous numbers of books. I've not done that. I've not done that, but I still believe in the worth of what is in that book. So if you have not purchased it, please do so. Go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com or uh, any bookstore, any independent bookstore. Please go and purchase that book. So today I'm going to read for you the meditation that I did for this week. So I'm not reading from the actual book today. And today I was moved by something that I heard, an interview by someone. They were talking about the way Black people have been treated when it comes to mental illness. And, we don't want to talk about mental illness. We don't want to talk about it. We kind of think that if we just love Jesus, everything's going to be all right. Well, loving Jesus is a good thing, but sometimes, you need to take some medicine. But we also need to know that historically, many people and many Caucasians have not believed that our mental illness was valid, or diagnoses of mental illness were valid. Uh, it's awful. It's awful to think that anybody would think that and would not understand that there are repercussions, there are side effects, there's fallout from having been committed to or subject to being traumatized just because of your race. There's outcomes. We suffer because of that. We keep it in, but we suffer because of that. And so, a new book has been written, and it's called Madness, Race, and Insanity in a Jim Crow Asylum. And it's so interesting because when you think of somebody being in an asylum, you know the lengths that have been made to separate white people from black people from white people. Just amazing to me, how you had to have separate cemeteries. What the heck are you talking about? When somebody is dead in a casket 6 feet under the ground, what are we talking about? But it's a sickness. This whole thing of us being separated from each other, needing to be separated from each other, is a sickness. It's an American sickness that America has taught people and nations around the world. So, anyway, I was going to just read this meditation for today, and I've entitled it The Arrogance of Oppression. Forrest G. Wood wrote a book entitled The Arrogance of Faith, where he points out how Christian churches participated in and helped push white supremacist ideology. My take was that people were bound to attach themselves to racist beliefs if they were getting those lessons from their pastor, who assured them that neither slavery nor racism was a sin. The preachers would teach that those values, those occurrences, those situations were given by God. That's a whole nother meditation, isn't it? It should not be surprising then that so many people who call themselves Christians see nothing wrong or anti biblical in adhering to white supremacist beliefs. It is what they have been taught. But there is a component tied to that way of thinking that is and always has been a part of the American political tradition. And that is that many people who believe God ordained racism and white supremacy and all of the other isms have historically believed that Black people do not know how to be free. Do not know how to be free. They believe that when Black people started to have their freedom or got their freedom after the Emancipation Proclamation, they began to see instances of mental illness. And many of these doctors concluded that it was because Black people were not safe. They felt discombobulated, and they were better when they were being taken care of by their masters. It accounts for the arrogance. There is an arrogance of oppression, and the arrogance of oppression, the arrogance that makes people believe that what they're doing to other people is a good thing, has spread over and throughout everything we do in this country. So, in this book I mentioned, Madness, Race, and Insanity, and the Jim Crow Asylum, the author, Antonia Hilton, shares that lawmakers in Maryland in the late 19th century were presented with, this is a quote, presented with a new and daunting problem, rising insanity among Negroes who were free, end quote. They believed, writes Hilton, that when Black people were enslaved or had been enslaved, they were, quote, immune to mental illness thanks to the care of their masters, end quote. I just had to sit on that thing for a minute. But the teacher of this point of view, Dr. Francis Stribling, believed that treatment for a Black person who was suffering from a mental illness should, quote, involve work that was similar to what that person did prior to hospitalization, end quote, that he meant prior to being set free. In other words, being made to work as he or she had when they were enslaved. Stribling's findings resulted in the creation of the Central Lunatic Asylum for the Colored Insane in Virginia, and in Maryland, the creation of what would be known as the Crownsville Hospital for the Negro Insane. It was in Anne Arundel County, and the building still stands, I understand. This hospital was built by 12 Black men in 1911, who then became the hospital's first patients. You read some of the stuff and you just kind of shake your head. No wonder we have some issues. That's crazy to make the people, these men who they knew were sick or thought were sick, build the hospital. I don't know how long it took, and then become the hospital's first patients. By 1940, there were 1,611 patients in the hospital, and the numbers kept increasing. Most of the Black people admitted never got out. So they were just amazing, just another form of enslavement. Every day, the patients could be seen working the fields, providing the labor necessary for the system to reap the benefits. So they worked in the fields and they created things and they created crops, and people from the around the area would come and get what had been planted and reaped and take it out and sold it. These people who were in the hospital, these patients, were not paid. They were part of the system of enslavement that has never ended. There is a whole lot in this book that is gripping, but what stands out is the arrogance of the enslavers who believed that Black people did not know how to be free. Many oppressors believed then, and still believe, that Black people need to be controlled and dominated. That Black people have had to keep on going or keep on keeping on despite the horrors of enslavement, swallowing their grief and pain and anger is not considered as a reason for mental health issues for Black people, and that it is a demonstration, and that just believing that way is a demonstration of arrogance in its purest form. The book tells the story of William Murray, the father of Pauli Murray, whom you know is an Episcopal priest and a poet and a writer. She was an amazing person. She was also gay, but her father was William Murray. And William was born in 1872, shortly after enslavement had been pronounced, gone by the proclamation, the Emancipation Proclamation. In time, he began to experience, quote, violent mood swings and experience depression. But prior to that, as he grew up, he had planted his steps in a way that would teach his children to do the same. He graduated from Howard University. He was a pianist and a teacher and eventually became a principal. But he suffered. He suffered in his mind and spirit, so much so that finally his family committed him. He wound up in the Crownsville Hospital for the Negro Insane, where he stayed until he died. The treatment, remember, is go on the fields, go plant some cotton or pick some cotton or plant something that is going to help the system. That's where he stayed until he died. He wanted to get out, but they would not let him out. It's heartbreaking stuff. The sheer arrogance of people who believed and still believe that Black people do not know how to be free, that it is better for us to be enslaved and exploited, is troubling. But it's really good to know. We are fighting powers and principalities whose commitment to the isms goes beyond human comprehension. The people who make the policies that continue to assault and insult us have not gone away. When Black people and more Black children and youth show signs of mental illness, the system that believes we are not human and therefore not capable of having mental health issues still believes that the condition is more of a behavior problem than an illness that needs to be treated. Because we don't know how to be free. We don't know how to manage our emotions. And anything that we say we've been through or that grandma went through or great grandma went through, and they passed on that trauma to us, that isn't even real to many people. It's not real, but it is real. It is. It would be nice if the arrogance of faith had finally been washed out to sea. The arrogance of faith. That arrogance that makes people think that God is on the side of the oppressors. God is not a bigot. I'll keep saying it. God does not ordain that. But it would be nice if the arrogance of faith had finally been washed out to sea and that the arrogance of oppression was hot on its heels, following the same fate. But in truth, bigot-laden faith and oppression practiced by those who embrace that faith are not even close to being gone. If we know that, even if we don't want to accept it, we can order our steps in the work we do to be free and to be treated for our mental health challenges. If we refuse to believe that arrogant faith begets arrogant oppression, we make ourselves vulnerable to the soul attacks that both wield. We would be better off if we committed to learning and knowing the nature of oppression, the nature of the oppression that we fight, than to believe that the storm of white supremacy has lessened. It has not and will not. What we have is a story of people who have navigated these waters of arrogance and survived. And knowing that story, we must tell those stories so that we and our children who come behind us can and will do the same. Amen and amen. So I hope that story, I hope that you'll get the book. Get my book too, but the book is called Madness, Race, and Insanity in the Jim Crow South. It's just something that we need to read. Uh, we need to make a reading list of all the things that you probably need to read to handle what's going on now, because we really do. This is a very stressful time. But think about that. Think about how crazy this world is. So we get 12 Black men who are diagnosed with some kind of illness, get them to go out and clear the fields, cut down the trees, bring the bricks and build the asylum that they would be put into, never to be released. There is something sick with that. There's something wrong with that. That's the world that we live in. That's the world we have to see with eyes wide open and work to change our reality. Okay? So that's it for today on this first day of February 2024. Write a goal down. Just concentrate on that goal. Make yourself really, truly be different by the end of this year than you were when you came into this year. Try something that you have not tried. Believe something or study something or, challenge something, but do something. Don't just keep sitting where you've been sitting, doing the same things over and over and over and over again. Step out of that place and go into a new place and become the person that God has created you to be. And you know what, bigger than that God is waiting for you to be. That is it for today. Thank you for listening to my rant. Be sure to vote in your primaries. I will see you. Take good care.